Plateaus in business. How do they occur and how do you get past them? So I was in one for about kind of like 6 to 8 months, right? And it was super confusing to me. I felt really just like I was completely pissed off with myself, like all the time. I was wondering, you know, what was wrong with me. So in this video, I want to share why I hit a plateau and how I've actually managed to overcome it within my own business. So to give you guys a bit of context, I was hovering between the 5,000 to 10,000 a month mark for the longest time. Profit, that is, and that in pounds. So dollars, it's probably well over 10. And my income plateaued around that point for a while, actually. And I knew I wanted to get to 50 to 100,000 pounds a month in profit. And overall, I kind of knew the strategy, but somehow, you know, I just couldn't make my body work. And I'm hoping this video will probably help some of you guys, because I know a few of my students are facing this or have faced this in the past as well. And they just kind of like, and me as well, like I could just never seem to consistently be able to put the work in. I literally tried everything. Like I worked with different consultants. I tried all kinds of crazy routines, and I just kind of realized, like, after trying everything under the sun, I realized that I was just too comfortable and I wasn't willing to relinquish that comfort. And I placed too much emphasis on comfort, and I kind of like inflated that in my head a little bit. And this pain just kind of like kept building and building up within me, which kind of led to me having this like epiphany after listening to probably like hours and hours of talks on like mindset, philosophy and stuff like that. And I kind of realized that I needed to become a different person again. So what I mean by this is, like, when I was in university, when I was in school, the person I was back then is not the same person as I am now, right? Like we're two completely different like personas almost. And one thing that like meditation has kind of made me realize is that, and not to sound like Conor Murphy, but like we're always acting in a certain way, like projecting ourselves according to like this image that we want to portray. So in my journal the other day, I was just kind of like digging at this, and I realized that I have kind of got two kind of like personalities, if you will. So in private, I'm like this goofy guy, right? I honestly, in videos, I probably come across quite sophisticated, and if you do business with me, you probably think I'm quite a sophisticated individual. But in reality, like in my private life, I'm like far from that, right? And I realized that the formal business persona that I try to portray on YouTube is like this kind of like go-getter guy that is constantly trying to achieve and outdo someone else. And this just wasn't really like the character that is needed to achieve my goal of like 50 to 100k a month. So just like how the person that I was in university and school couldn't, you know, build the business that I'm kind of like running now, me in my current state can't run a business that produces between 500 to like $1 million a year, right? My work ethic is not there, my discipline is not there, and my willingness to sacrifice isn't there. So I need to become the new persona which is worthy of that kind of like status almost. It wasn't until recently that I realized like I'm just not that person, but I can become that person. So you gotta realize, like, I guess you as a person, it's not static. It's actually very volatile and dynamic, and you can kind of like mold yourself into the person that you want to be. Because if you just think back like 2 years ago versus now, you're like two different people, right? And you can either move forward in life or regress. So for example, how does a drug addict go from like being just a regular person to actually a drug addict, I don't know, shaking on the side of a pavement from like a overdose, right? There's like very little gradual declines and descents into the drug addict persona. So if you really see things in that perspective, and you see how entrepreneurs go from like a regular college student or university student, graduate, whatever, to being like a top entrepreneur, there's like steps to it. There's like not a very strict path from like a step-by-step perspective, but there's a journey that he had to go on to evolve him or herself into becoming the person that they are then. So that was when it just like clocked in my mind, like it made so much sense. Like I just need to kind of like evolve myself into, I guess, like the next stage of my journey and become the person that is deserving of those things. And I realized the thing that was holding me back is actually comfort, right? Comfort is the killer. And another thing, this was like super painful for me to admit to myself deep down, because at my level, I just realized I kind of grew way too comfortable, and I was in a really comfortable position, and I became complacent, and I just stopped going after it as aggressively, and I stopped feeling this constant urge to grow. Unlike me last year when I first initially dropped out and I was just building my business, I felt this constant urge of like inadequacy, and I just wanted to grow all the time. And in that period of, I guess, sustaining and maintaining my level, I also kind of like grew an ego and attached myself to like this new identity of, and this is something that's quite abstract, and I'm probably not explaining myself in the best way possible, just because it's kind of like a concept that I've only recently kind of realized. I've embodied this identity of like, oh, I'm this like semi-successful 21-year-old and it's enough. And I kind of grew an ego from this in terms of, hey, I know what I'm talking about now. I don't need to learn this aggressively anymore. By the way, I'm just putting on my glasses so I can see my iPad. So yeah, and this gaining of an ego and like just taking on this new identity is not something that I want, obviously, right? And it was very difficult for me to admit to myself this, but I mean, if I don't really make this public, I feel like I would not be able to really get past it. And it wasn't really until these realizations were made, and it wasn't until these realizations were truly understood that I was able to really kind of like get on my horse again and trot along in terms of progress. Because I think there's two, like understanding and knowing is two very different things. So I always knew during that 6 to 8 months of me plateauing, I always knew like, oh yeah, it's because I'm too comfortable and da 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 da. But it wasn't really until I understood why I was comfortable and why I was so unwilling to step outside of my comfort zone again that I was able to kind of like move past this plateau. So yeah, that's kind of like what happened to me in my business and in my personal life, I guess. And that's why I haven't been too on YouTube for the past like month and a half, and I haven't been doing consistently 3 videos a week. So yeah, I generally find in plateaus, not only in business but in life, it's more just like you're no longer willing to evolve into the next version of yourself. And the only reason you're plateauing is because you're not constantly improving you intrinsically as a character. So obviously the answer to breaking past plateaus is to improve yourself and evolve it into like your next evolution, right? So just imagine I was a Charmander trying to evolve into a Charizard. Right? I need to go into my next evolution to hit like the next point in business. So from what I've seen so far in business, I can only give you my perspective because obviously I've only been doing this stuff for like a year and a half now. So it's not like my perspective is gospel, but I think it'll be really interesting to see how my mindset and things like that progress over the years, let's say when I'm in my 5th year, for example, right? So the solutions for me personally, and what I've seen kind of like work for other people, is the main solution to plateaus is just to sit in the pain of like, oh my god, like why am I still here? Like sit in that pain long enough, and eventually you're gonna build up enough pain for you to move again. And it will build up enough pain for you to make the realization that you need to make to move forward. Now you really need to be careful not to run away from this pain or just like brush it under the carpet, but more so just like feel the pain and then just like really understand, okay, this pain should be here and it's not a bad thing because it's an indication to me that I need to grow. And once that level of pain builds up enough, you're gonna have to grow. Another thing is I've seen people kind of like solve the problem by surrounding themselves with better people. So you gotta understand, like for example, I can't remember who I saw this advice from, but the team that takes a business from 10 million to 100 million and then from 100 million to a billion, they're not the same team because the individuals within the organization won't have evolved at the same pace, or maybe their like visions just doesn't align anymore. And it's the same with your character. To hit the kind of like, I guess, next level or the league above you, you have to understand the person that you are, let's say, running $100 million company is not the same as the freelancer that you are managing like a 10,000 a month operation, right? You're just completely two different people. And lastly, the solution is to actually give yourself time. Because one thing I kind of realized with the online space and just entrepreneurship in general is the online space really fucks your perception on how long success takes. Because I don't know a single person that started off from like absolute zero and then scale to, I don't know, 100K a month in anything less than 3 years. I just don't know anyone that has done that. And if they say they have, for example, the people that you see on like testimonials, like, hey, one of my customers or clients went from 0 to $1 million a month or 100K a month or whatever in like 6 months. The reason that person was able to do that is because maybe they've already started, well, 100% guaranteed, they've already started 5 other businesses in the past or had some sort of prior experience, that like they're not starting from scratch, they're starting from experience. So yeah, giving yourself time I think is really, really important. Don't compare yourself to someone else, because that would just kind of be like insulting, because you don't understand the context of the other person's growth, and the other person, it's just kind of irrelevant really. So give yourself time and understand that it takes between 3 to 5 years to accumulate anything of value for yourself. And yeah, that's kind of like my learnings for today that I wanted to share with you guys. If you guys want more videos kind of like this, where I'm giving away more like strategy and like kind of like mental frameworks that I'm kind of like learning along the way, let me know in the comments, because I find these videos so much more like fulfilling to film and talk about for myself, as opposed to like, oh, how to sign clients in like your first 30 days. Because to be honest, that's literally irrelevant, right? Those videos you can watch anywhere on YouTube. Drop me a comment if you want to see these videos, and subscribe, and give this video a like as well, because you know, YouTube algorithm doesn't push this. And if you want to learn more advanced tactics for email marketing, e-commerce, whatever, join my Facebook group, because I post all of the content that isn't really rankable on YouTube on there. See you guys next time. Have a good one. Peace.